On the morning of an ordinary Tuesday, a 23-year-old woman walked out of her apartment and vanished without a single trace. No struggle, no witnesses, no goodbye. What happened next would leave an entire community shattered and investigators staring at evidence that raised more questions than it answered. 17 days later, something was found. Something hidden in a place she had no reason to be. Something that should have closed the case, but instead blew it wide open. This is the case file, hidden inside the blacklist vault. The door clicked shut at 6:47 in the morning. Amara grabbed her bag, adjusted the strap on her shoulder, and stepped out into the cool air. Her mother was still in the kitchen. She could hear the faint sound of the radio playing, the smell of tea drifting through the hallway. She did not say goodbye. She never did on mornings like this. She would be back by evening. She was always back by evening. But that evening never came. No calls, no messages, no trace. Just a silence so thick it felt like it had weight. And then, weeks later, investigators found something hidden, something that was never supposed to be found. And when they did, it did not bring answers. It brought a darkness that nobody in that community was prepared for. This is the story of Amara. She was 23 years old, the kind of person who set 3 alarms but was always up before the first one. She kept a planner, color-coded. She texted her mother every time she arrived somewhere safely, not because anyone asked her to, but because that was just who she was. Reliable, predictable, careful. Her younger brother once joked that Amara was the only person he knew who had a routine for her routine. She laughed at that. She laughed easily. She worked part-time at a small administrative office not far from the university she attended. Her supervisor later told investigators she had never once been late, not once in 14 months. She had friends, but she was private, not secretive, just selective. She did not post much online. She liked quiet evenings, phone calls with her mother, and a particular corner seat at a cafe 2 streets from her apartment. She was, by every account, a young woman living an ordinary life. And that is exactly what made her disappearance so terrifying. The morning she vanished started like every other. Her neighbor, a retired schoolteacher named Mrs. Osei, saw her at the bottom of the stairwell just after 6:30. She smiled at me, Mrs. Osei told police. I told her it was cold. She said she would be fine. That was the last confirmed sighting of Amara by someone who knew her. CCTV footage from a camera mounted on a pharmacy 2 blocks away picked up a figure matching her description at 6:52 a.m., walking in the direction of the bus stop. She appeared calm, unhurried, normal. At 7:14 a.m., she sent a voice note to her cousin. It lasted 11 seconds. She said, "I'll call you later, just heading in. Love you." Her voice was clear, relaxed. There was nothing, not a tremor, not a pause that suggested anything was wrong. After that, nothing. Her phone stopped receiving calls at 8:03 a.m., not switched off, not out of service. It simply stopped connecting. When her mother called at noon to check in because Amara had not sent her usual "I'm here safe" message, the call rang out. She tried again and again. By the 3rd attempt, her hands were shaking. By nightfall, her family was at the police station.
The first 48 hours were chaos dressed as procedure. Officers assured the family that young adults sometimes needed space, that there was likely an explanation. Her mother sat in a plastic chair and stared at the wall. Her brother paced. Her father, a quiet man who rarely showed emotion in public, pressed his palms flat on the officer's desk and said in a voice barely above a whisper, "My daughter does not disappear. Something is wrong." He was right. Search teams were organized, posters were printed, her face spread across social media within hours. That photo from her cousin's birthday, the one where she was laughing, her head thrown back, completely unguarded. Thousands of shares, hundreds of tips, none of them led anywhere solid. Days passed, then a week, then 2. The theories began to multiply. Some people said she had run away, stress, pressure, a relationship nobody knew about. Others whispered about abduction. A few pointed to the route she took every morning, noting how isolated one particular stretch became after the pharmacy. Investigators followed every thread. Every thread went cold. And then, on the 17th day, something changed. A maintenance worker clearing overgrown brush near an underpass roughly 4 kilometers from Amara's apartment made a discovery. Wrapped tightly in a piece of dark cloth, wedged between the base of a concrete pillar and the earth, was a mobile phone. Cracked screen, water-damaged, but still carrying data. It was Amara's. The underpass was nowhere near her route to work. It was nowhere near anywhere she had reason to be. Investigators stood around it for a long moment before anyone spoke. One officer later described the scene quietly. "It wasn't just that we found it," he said. "It was the way it was placed. That phone wasn't dropped. It wasn't thrown. Somebody put it there, carefully." The contents of the phone deepened everything. Her messages had been partially wiped, but not completely. Forensics recovered fragments. Among them, a series of texts from a number not saved under any name. The messages dated back 3 weeks before her disappearance. Short, clipped, the kind of conversation that could read as innocent or could read as something else entirely, depending on what you already knew. In one recovered message, Amara had typed, "I don't think this is a good idea." The response from the unknown number was 2 words, "Too late." Her family was not shown those messages for several days. When her mother finally read them, she did not cry. She went very still. Then she looked at the detective across the table and said, "She was scared. She was scared and she didn't tell me, and I didn't know." That sentence became the thing her brother could not stop thinking about for months afterward. The gap between what Amara carried and what she shared, the weight she had been holding quietly, the way she held everything, carefully, privately, alone. Investigators turned their attention to the people closest to her, a coworker who gave her a lift home twice in the weeks before she vanished, a man from her university who mutual friends described as overly interested, a neighbor from her building whose alibi for the morning of her disappearance had a gap in it, not a large gap, but a gap nonetheless. None of these leads produced an arrest. All of them produced more questions. The timeline continued to unravel. The CCTV footage from the pharmacy showed Amara walking toward the bus stop, but bus records showed no trip made on her registered card that morning. No driver recalled her. She had been heading somewhere, but not where anyone assumed. And whoever she had been communicating with in those weeks before her disappearance, the number traced back to a prepaid SIM purchased with cash. Untraceable. Deliberate. 3 theories remained standing when the investigation hit its most public stage. The first, Amara had agreed to meet someone that morning, someone she knew, someone she had been trying to distance herself from, and that meeting had gone catastrophically wrong. The second, she had uncovered something or someone that made her a target, and the phone hidden at the underpass was not placed there by her attacker, it was placed there by her. A signal. A clue left for anyone looking hard enough. The third theory, the one investigators refused to discard entirely, was the most unsettling, that Amara had been planning to disappear, to escape someone or something, but something had gone wrong before she could get far enough. Her family still does not know which theory is true. Her mother still keeps her phone charged, not Amara's, her own. She keeps it charged and close at night, because somewhere in the part of her that refuses to stop hoping, she believes it will ring. That voice note is still saved. 11 seconds. "I'll call you later. Just heading in. Love you." The case remains open. That phone, the one wrapped in dark cloth wedged into the cold ground beneath an underpass 4 kilometers from the life Amara was building, should have solved everything. It should have been the answer. Instead, It became the loudest question. So what really happened to her? If this story shook you, if it made you feel something, then you already understand why these cases matter. Subscribe so you never miss a case. Drop a comment with your theory on what happened to Amara. And if someone you know needs to see this, share it. Because sometimes the only thing standing between silence and answers is someone who refuses to look away.